Like, do you have a sense of where the biggest growth is going to be over the next 3 to 4 years, perhaps?
So maybe just a little bit background, what do we do as a VC? I'm not sure how well your followers know aware about what's happening, like what we do. So as a VC, I'm looking for highly scalable business models. So as an early stage VC, so we invest in companies pre-seed, seed, Series A. That means that our target is 100x for each potential startup. Doesn't mean that most of them, 90% of them will probably go default, but the ones which will make me 100x will make the fund, and that's hopefully like typical process. So it means that I need to see a multi-billion market. I need to see that the company, the technology is transformative. It's not like one or two government contracts and the company is going to be stable for 20 years. I want to see the company to basically should experience exponential growth in the next couple of years. Ideally, my lifetime of my fund is like 7 to 10 years, typically what people do in the industry. So within that period of time, I should see potential to have exponential growth. If you generally think about, the verticals which I mentioned, some of them very old, established, for example, satellite communications. Yes, of course, we do see disruptions such as Starlink, for example, Elon Musk. Like this year, I think the first time when it compresses SpaceX launch business, right? In terms of revenue, we have OneWeb in the UK. That's a disruption areas, disruption technologies. We also see companies who come and say, oh, now I can, build better satellites, faster, cheaper, more we use 3D printing or we use something else. So, and then we can disrupt the whole old manufacturing, like old space industry with a new specific, for example, component for satellites. That's also disruption. But that means that I'm looking in an old, well-established market. I'm looking for disruption technologies. That one thing, right? That's one kind of model of my framework, how I can look. Another one is, for example, fastly growing businesses, such as in-space manufacturing is a good example. As of today, we have 2 stations in orbit, ISS, which is like it's a consortium of different countries. NASA is, I think, is the main one, but also I think there's so many different countries. ISS is now being decommissioned. Means that it's been already 20 plus years in orbit, conducted several thousands of experiments, but it's very old, it has to be decommissioned. There's a new stations that have been built now by a number of private companies such as Axiom, Vast, Starlab, Voyager. Voyager, by the way, is going to submitted the IPO papers, right? So that's kind of another example of going public. But they are building stations not just for people to come and do experiments, but also to build real business. For example, building labs for production of, biopharma products in space, semiconductors, data centers, which will be storing data in space instead of having it on Earth. So, and in this specific area, we don't really have any established businesses yet. So all of them are growing with the same speed, right? So that's where I'm looking at all of the potential technologies, innovation, and startups and see, okay, which of them will grow faster, for example, which of them have more sustainable business models, which of them has more demand on Earth, right? Okay, so if it's a pharma businesses, okay, so who has already contracts, agreements, and signed some kind of letter of intent with big pharma houses, big pharma companies. So that's another mindset, framework. Okay, how we can see them. We also look at the businesses which has 2 business lines. For example, one terrestrial, one is space. Then for me it's easier because, okay, let's say my latest investment, Zeno Powers, which is in nuclear batteries for military use, but also for space use. Okay, so how are we going to power Mars, Moon, orbital, satellites? That's we don't have. Most of the reliable opportunity is to have nuclear batteries. That's one of the potential technologies. Okay, but it's exactly the same how we use in the middle of the ocean, in a desert, in bunkers, right? So that's crazy. Okay, I have multi-billion market on Earth, but also have multi-billion exponentially growing market in space. That's another kind of framework I'm using. Okay, it doesn't have to be only space. It can be also terrestrial market, but at some point it will be growing in space. That's another good example. So that's how I typically think. I think most of the deep tech VCs, they also think in terms of, okay, I'm looking at the vertical. Okay, what are the players here? What's the kind of, what are the trends? What are technological, political, economical trends here? How do I make the bet? Okay, if I'm going to choose one, two leaders, put the bet there. And as I believe that's like, what's my perception of the future in that specific sector. So that's, yeah, I think that's kind of the high level thinking here.
Do you have a sense whether, like in with analogy to the AI race right now, there's this feeling that the winner, there's going to be a winner, and it's just so important for either the US or, say, China to be the winner because everything else follows from that. Is the same kind of thinking happening in space where there's this mentality you have, in order to win, in order to get this massive exponential growth, where to get the scale, you have to be the first? Or is space such a huge frontier that it's going to be multiple winners?
There's a very interesting saying in VC world which says, it works like a charm, like, the third attempt, right? So many technologies, the first two waves of technologies typically fail, and then the third wave, it works. For example, asteroid mining, right? So we already seen the two waves of, a number of different startups trying to do the same thing. I think it started 15 years ago, first wave, and then now we have the second wave. And people even say, even now it might not be the right time, because you need to have, demand, technology readiness, economic, the unit economics has to work, right, for all of this to be able to work. So sometimes people say, okay, we'll see that maybe the first one will fail. We'll wait for okay, if we have the proven demand, the proven economics, then okay, we will be able to invest. So I don't think that, in some markets, for example, launch, it's 90% is SpaceX, right? But people still say that, okay, now everyone wants to have their own national launcher, on soil, on a specific, kind of country, right? And people say, yeah, but this is only for big or small, right? So we want to have something for small. Why do we always launch big rocket? We should have a medium size, a small size rocket. So there's kind of still markets for that, right? So in terms of the orbital station, for example, private stations, it's exactly the same, right? So there's no one big contract which everyone is fighting for. Of course, the first one, it would be the people who will replace ISS. But if we are going to create demand for a lot of other businesses, it doesn't really matter. One can specialize in robotics lab for biotech. Another one can specialize in touristic or maybe entertainment industry. Okay, let's do some entertainment show in space, and we can can be different business models around that.
Didn't Tom Cruise, he's filmed or he's about to film something on the ISS?
Yeah, I saw it in the news as well. I think it just happened, maybe, or hopefully we'll see some movie. I find it kind of probably very expensive, but it's cool to make it more public.
Yeah, I would definitely rather see Cruise up there than Katy Perry. Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Poor Katie. Everyone's mad at Katie.
Yes, but I mean, people say there's no such a thing as a bad PR. I was reading all this comment, but I was like, at least people talk about that. At least people talk about, oh, Blue Origin, actually you can book a flight. Anyone can book a flight now, right? So still, I think attracted enough attention for people to start thinking about, maybe I should buy a ticket as well.
I wouldn't feel too sorry for her. I saw a Reddit article yesterday that she's making $900,000 per show for her Las Vegas residency.
Yeah, so who's the dummy?
She could fund like a bunch of space missions with that kind of income.